This is Dan Rogers, your host on We the People Town Square, coming to you from the center of the universe, the high plains of Texas, near the headwaters of the Prairie Dog Town Fork of the Red River. Today is January the 14th of 2024. Today we are here with Chris Forbis, who's running for re-election as Sheriff of Randall County. Sheriff, welcome.
Good morning.
Let's start off by telling the voters, what's the role of the sheriff?
Well, the most important role of the sheriff is to defend your constitutional rights against anybody who would come against them. Doesn't matter what level of government that is or if it's within local government, first and foremost.
So you believe in the concept of a constitutional sheriff?
Yes.
So if a federal agent came into Randall County and tried to, in your opinion, trample on a citizen's rights, constitutional rights, you have the right to arrest that federal agent.
We definitely have the right to prevent the federal agent from doing unconstitutional acts inside of Randall County.
But that wouldn't necessarily mean handcuffing him.
It would all be depending on the circumstances. It's hard to say one way or another unless you had specifics about what it is. It may be something small that they just leave and go somewhere else, but it may be something that where they're coming in to illegally seize firearms or something of that nature.
So your primary role is to protect the rights of the citizens in Randall County.
That is correct.
So what is the primary role beyond that you see in a day-to-day operations? How many people do you oversee, and what type of a budget do you have to run?
So the day-to-day operations, of course, is public safety, first and foremost. And that's anything from keeping prisoners incarcerated away from the public because they've violated the law, to providing patrol operations for those in the community, investigations for criminal activity, those type of things. As far as the number of employees that I have, currently I have 238. That includes administrative staff, jail, and patrol, all the operations of the office. The budget is right at $23 million to provide those services. My biggest division is the jail division. I have nearly 100 jailers because of the number of personnel we have to staff it and to run it.
So the state regulates you on how many?
Yes, we have to have, it's a 1-to-48 ratio under Texas Commission on Jail Standards.
How many people do you keep in your jail?
The maximum capacity currently is 454. Jail Standards considers a jail full at 85%. We have been beyond that because of, so in our jail, we may have, let's say that each pod has 48 inmates, and I may have 60 female inmates. So in that second pod that I have those female inmates in, I may have 20 or more beds that I just can't realize because I can't put males with females. Or there may be some prisoners that come in and I can't house offenders that are, let's say, in on traffic warrants with a capital murder, and there may not be beds there. So depending on the day and where we're at, we're usually pretty full.
So what happens if you have more people to lock up than you have space for?
So we have been working, especially through the COVID areas and period. We can put people out on monitors, but you have to vet those, and you have to make sure that those are your nonviolent offenders. Depending on the background of the case and everything, we may work with the courts for personal recognizance bonds. If there's someone that is, everybody makes mistakes. Just because you've been charged with a crime doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It may mean that you screwed up this time and violated the law, but there may be offenders that can be put out on PR bonds. But our county is growing really fast right now. And so because of that, we've had to embark on a expansion of 96 beds, which is 2 pods. It's finishing out the way the jail was constructed. You have 4 pods off a cluster, and whenever that jail was originally constructed, there were 2 pods, and then the other 2 pods were not finished out, so that's where we're adding on.
Well, the jail that you have now isn't that old, is it?
So the original part of the jail was constructed in 2000, and then there was an expansion in 2009, and now we're at 2023, and we're at another expansion.
Well, that's almost new then.
Yeah.
20-some years old.
Yeah.
Well, so why do you think you need some more beds? Is there more crime today than there was before? Or is it just because of the increase in population?
I think it's both. Amarillo has kind of changed. I mean, because of the population, the influx of people coming in from different locations. We've had a big influx of fentanyl because of the way that the Biden administration has screwed up the border. And so we're having to really target that because it's different than the drugs we've had in the past. You know, meth and heroin, while are bad drugs, fentanyl is a different animal. You can take 1 dose and it can be fatal. And so we've really had to ramp up our enforcement and try to find the suppliers and dealers. And we've ran several search warrants in the past couple of months, and we're just trying to get a handle on the situation here in Amarillo.
Yeah, I've heard that there's enough fentanyl in Amarillo to kill everybody in Texas.
I don't doubt that a bit. Some of the operations, Amarillo is at such a crossroads that there's cartel activity in Amarillo on any given day because of the I-40 and the railroads and I-27, US 60, everything running through here. So we have to be vigilant and proactive to take care of the citizens.
So does Potter County have a bigger problem, you think, than Randall, or is it?
I think it's just across the board. It's Amarillo split in the middle. I mean, criminals don't look at county lines and decide where they're going to have their criminal activity. It's wherever it's going to be the most convenient for them.
I guess I can't understand the concept of somebody taking drugs. It doesn't ever. My thought is, well, number one, if I took a drug, why would you? I'd be afraid it would kill me instantly.
Yeah, a lot of people.
The other thing is, what if you liked it? That'd be even worse.
Yeah.
So why would anybody take it?
Well, I don't know. If we could answer that question, we could solve a lot of society's problems. We've tried over the decades different avenues, with rehabilitation and everything, and until somebody gets to the point where they're at rock bottom and they don't want to live the life anymore, as long as they're getting something out of the addiction. Addiction's is a big problem in the United States, and it's not just illicit drugs. I mean, it deals also with alcohol and other substances that cause a lot of the problems within society.
Well, I guess everything's a choice.
Everything is a choice, and that's what's great about this nation, but it's also a double-edged sword. It's we have the right in this country to unless we're infringing on somebody else, we have the right to do as we please. And so some of those choices have ramifications that a lot of people don't think through at the beginning of what they're doing. And so it's a very complex issue. And like I said before, if you can figure out the solution to that, I'm all ears.
Just say no.
We tried that in the 80s.
But I think it worked, didn't it? Didn't it help?
I think it did for those. I think it did for those children that had a solid background and platform and support network.
A little bit of common sense.
But those that really, have turmoil in their household, their parents may be drug abusers, and so their normal is different than everybody else's normal. Normal may be that a drug dealer comes over to the house and they deal drugs, and mom does drugs. That's normal for them. So they don't have a concept of what it's like to actually live what we would say is a productive life.
So how do you try to tackle the problem on the supply side or on the consumption?
Both. And we actually have some programs at the office that we, one of them is our prisoner reentry program. It's for those that have, like I'd said earlier, hit rock bottom. They are ready to get out of the life. It's not for your first offenders. It's for those that have, long histories of it, but they're ready to make a change. And it's a faith-based program. But they have to go through steps. We start them off on teaching them life skills, and they have to go through AA or NA or whatever their problem is. If they've got issues, that we teach them how to handle money. And then after they go through these classes, it's a graduated program where we work with some of the employers in the community, and they will then get a job, and they'll do basically work release. They'll go out during the day to the job, and then they'll come back in the evening, and then at that point they start paying for their upkeep at the jail, and then they continue to move down those paths. And by the time that they finish the program, they've got a job, they've got money in the bank, they've got a place to live, a vehicle, and a church to support them. And once it's successfully graduated, it's a really good program.
Well, that's good. I think we all want to help people that want to help themselves.
Absolutely. That's part of, if you're a Christian, that's your directive in life.
But people don't want to help themselves.
There are those that are, absolutely.
So we have to make a choice. Is it worth helping those that don't want to help themselves?
Well, and we have to pour our resources into the ones that we can.
That's right.
Yes.
So is that your biggest challenge as sheriff, is the drug problem in Randall County?
That and the growth. If you've driven out in the unincorporated areas of Randall County, you see how much is out there. It's a small city now. We've got banks and strip malls, and
yeah, now it's going east, southeast.
It is, and actually, there's subdivisions going in South Canyon, and so it does put a stress on us. So we have to add personnel, but we also have to be mindful that we don't want to outrun the need. So we have to be diligent that we're adding just the amount that we need and not too much. And we added 2 last year because it's constantly growing, and we have to provide those services.
Well, I guess the new growth, though, that provides more tax base, which helps the county and helps you fund your operation.
Yes, and that is the other side of the coin. That is the blessing about the expanding tax base. Because of that, it does provide the funding to where we don't have to go with a referendum under Senate Bill 2 to the taxpayers. We're able to do that within our means. Randall County has one of the lowest tax rates in the state because we are very mindful that it's not our money.
Right. It's
the money of the taxpayers. And so we're very mindful of that and make sure that if we ask for something, it's something that we need. It's not a frivolous ask.
Why do you think Randall's growing and Potter's shrinking?
My wife's a realtor, and a lot of the people that she talked to, a lot of it does have to do with taxing and the tax rate in Potter County. I don't know if some of it's geographic, because a lot of Potter County is also, there's a lot of big ranches, and also the geography is not as easy to build on. It's more expensive in some of those areas where you've got the river breaks and things like that. So it could be a lot of things, but I think that the tax rate is one of the biggest things, and that we provide services at a rate of 40 cents per hundred value for the taxpayers, and that's a big difference.
Well, that's interesting. I've got property in both counties, so I get to deal with both of them. But Randall certainly is a lot easier to add subdivisions on, and it's right off the interstate.
Yes.
So you have that main artery running through there. But so what? You're running for re-election. You got elected, what, 4 years ago?
Yes, sir. It was.
You got elected after Joel Richardson?
That's correct. Joel had asked me to run after he decided that it was a struggle for him to decide to retire. He had been sheriff for 20 years, and so he finally came down to it, and he said, I would like you to run for sheriff, and he is actually my campaign treasurer and has been since he first asked me to run.
So you decided you want to do it again?
I do. I think I'm the best person for this position. I think that what we're doing at the Randall County Sheriff's Office is serving the citizens well. We've got a lot of initiatives. We're working with the school districts on improving school security. That was one of my biggest things. As I took over as sheriff, I mean, our schools had done a good job of school security, but then Uvalde happened, and that kind of opened a bunch of people's eyes about things, and we've had more and more of the mass shootings, and so we didn't want to not be prepared here, and so we've been partnering with the schools and we're at some of our staff is at every lockdown drill the Canyon Independent School District does, and we provide technical assistance and training and assistance for those. We also have just rolled out a program where each administrator on each campus has an app that they can connect with directly to our dispatch, which will cut the response time down. Plus, we can patch that feed in directly to our patrol officers that are responding. So we're working hard to get that done. We're also going to help CISD with a couple of school resource officers through the Senate Bill 22 funding, the Rural Sheriffs Act. The school district pays the lion's share of the cost for the deputies, but we will pick up a small portion of that through that grant funding that's coming from the state.
Well, that's good. Everybody wants their kids safe at the school. Why do you think these people are targeting schools?
Well, so there's just things that are happening are different in society now. And I was at a training at the Western State Sheriff's Association, and I was shocked on some of the violent video games. And some people will give pushback and say that doesn't have anything to do with it, but they are very graphic, and it's almost like watching a movie. And it's violence, where murder and prostitution and drugs, and some of these the shooter from Uvalde and some of the others, they spent hours immersed in those games. So much so that 10, 12, 16 hours a day. And it is. And
that's another addiction.
It is. Absolutely it is. But it affects an adolescent's mind growing up. You can't watch that and not be affected. We use those training tools with the military to help our soldiers be desensitized, for lack of a better term, so that they can go out and wage war. So do we think that it's not going to affect a child? And the one thing about it is the gaming industry is self-regulating. So, that's kind of that kind of leads us back to where we're at on the freedom of society. It needs the parental I believe in parents' rights first and foremost, but we need to get those parents to be more involved with their kids.
Yeah, but rights can't exist without responsibility.
True.
And the parents aren't being responsible.
And they've basically let that be the babysitter for the kids growing up.
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know how to fix.
Well, so we've got an initiative that we're working with. It's a threat assessment, threat management team that we have, and it's all the school districts and all the law enforcement agencies and different organizations. And whenever we find a person that is headed down that path, we've had a couple of three that we have put in this program, so that we all have situational awareness that this person is out there, but we also intervene on the front side of it, because there are always, well, I can't say always because there's no absolutes, but most of the time, whenever these shooters go out, there were signs ahead of time, and they have telegraphed it. The Valdi shooter was on a gaming app and had actually put that he had just shot his grandmother and he was going out to shoot up a school. And so his nickname was School Shooter. So there are things up front that we have to pay attention to, and now we have the tools that we can do that, and we have interdicted some that we believe we're headed down that path, and so we're trying to get them turned around. And we've had some that we've had to lock up because it was an imminent threat, but that's our job, to go out and take care of those things.
Well, it's not like it used to be 50 years ago, I guess.
No.
We didn't have these problems.
No, whenever you and I went to high school, we'd have the pickups in the parking lot had gun racks with shotguns on.
Oh, yeah, everybody did where I went to school, yeah. Nobody shot anybody,
Yeah.
Nobody would ever think of such a thing. But that's because we all had guns, right?
Yeah.
It was a pretty safe place.
Yes, sir.
So I believe the more guns around, the safer.
Absolutely. Every law-abiding citizen that can possess a firearm and is willing to, I think they should.
You have to trust the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's not been a school shooter that went up to a no gun zone and stopped and said, "Oh, there's a sign. I can't go in there with a gun."
So that's really probably why they're targeting, because they know there's nobody there with a gun, right?
Soft targets, yes. That's part of it, I'm sure.
And they want attention.
Absolutely. Whenever we do our active shooter training with the schools or the public, I do the Citizens Response Active Shooter events training. I just had one recently that we hosted. And the last part of that is don't name them.
Exactly.
We're not going to give them and the media has done us a disservice on that.
Yeah. Well, it sells ads for the media.
Yeah.
They love catastrophe because that's what it sells. It's all day, the same story over and over. I think that's wrong. I think they shouldn't be named. Their name should never be mentioned. Their family should never be mentioned. And they should be wiped from existence quietly, as if they never existed.
Yeah.
But so what was your background before you became sheriff? What did you do?
So I've been with the Randall County Sheriff's Office for 31 years, and I've worked in every area. I started in the jail that we had to start in the jail at that time, and worked my way up through being a went to patrol and then became patrol supervisor, then went to investigations, and then went into personnel training and worked my way to investigations lieutenant, and then to enforcement captain, which is where I was whenever Joel retired. I was over the enforcement division, but I worked in all areas of the office, and I've done a lot of training for law enforcement, a lot of training for citizens and civilians. Active shooter training I've been doing since 2010, and we do the citizen side, but we also do the law enforcement side. And in April, we are going to be hosting a joint training for all law enforcement, firefighters, and EMS. The invitations are out for Randall, Potter have both agreed both our fire departments, the sheriff's office, the county police department, Department of Public Safety, to where we all train together and go through the entire event, so that our response is not like what happened in Uvalde.
Well, it's better to be proactive.
Absolutely.
I guess you work a lot with Potter and
Yes.
Sheriff Thomas.
Yes. Yeah, Sheriff Thomas and I went to high school together.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we've got a couple good sheriffs in the panhandle here. So, do you have a website or anything that people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, it's sheriffforbis.com.
SheriffForbis.com.
Pretty simple.
And is there anything else you'd like to tell the voters as to why they should choose you for re-election?
Well, I'm always mindful that I work for the citizens. My door is always open. If anyone has anything that they need to discuss, they need only to call, and I'll meet them anywhere. We meet at a coffee shop and talk. I'm very responsive to the public. I think that because we work for the citizens, it's imperative that we listen to the citizens. And so, first and foremost, that's in my heart.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. That's what the citizens, I think, want. You know, we live in a constitutional representative republic, so it's the people that have the authority.
Absolutely.
Not the government.
Yes, we're given that authority from God, and that document was written to allow us to give those powers to the government to govern. It's kind of got turned around the other way.
By electing representatives,
Correct.
not rulers.
Correct.
And I think we've kind of gotten away from that, it appears, but I have my own opinions as to why that's occurred. It's pretty simple. I think it's because we went to the electronic voting. We've got to get rid of that and get back to hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots that can be verified. And I think that because our foundation of our republic is our vote, which is our voice.
Absolutely.
When you muffle that through computers, I think it creates all kinds of problems that people can't see, because a lot of people aren't voting now because they don't trust the system.
I haven't talked to a lot of people as far as their views on that. There were a lot of, whenever the electronic voting came out at first, I remember telling my wife, there's got to be some kind of way to verify that, and then they came out with the paper backup. And I think that might be able to work if we had a system where we, maybe as party chair, you could, as part of a statute, of course, we'd have to go back to Austin for this, but where you could say, I'm going to look at this, this, and this precinct this day.
We've tried, they won't let you.
So
I said, why can't I just have a manual roster to check your electronic poll book? Won't let you.
Yeah, they'd have to go back through
Why
Austin.
can't I just count the paper in the box that you're printing out? The electronic receipts, which we proved in Potter, mean nothing because we had the wrong person on the ballot, but it didn't affect. But the machines figured out how to calculate it how they wanted, not what was on the printout. So I'm very suspect. For instance, you had 100% of 72-year-old males vote in Randall County in 2020.
Excuse me.
100%. How can that happen? So I believe, well, I've talked to hundreds, and I deal with election integrity groups all over the country. But so I've talked to a lot of people, and we know what's going on, but you can't prove it. So, like, if you win or lose your race, there is no way you will be able to verify that that's the case. To me, that's a problem. And they want to throw it to the candidate, but then the candidate has no way because they won't let you access anything. Oh, we'll print the tape. Well, you can print it 1,000 times. It's going to say the same thing. But you cannot verify it.
You don't think that spot checking the actual printed ballots?
No.
Because you look at your ballot when you leave.
It doesn't matter. That's not how it's counted.
Well, and that's why
It's all smoke and mirrors.
I would, if
We
you
were
could
making a
verify
lot
that.
of ruckus about it, and so they did that to make people think that they have some sort of a receipt, but it means nothing. We just wasted millions of dollars. I just don't see why a private corporation that nobody knows who really owns it is controlling our elections. And then your electronic poll book, that is going to a third-party server that nobody knows who. That means they have every bit of your personal information. They know how you vote.
Most corporations have everyone's information these days, it seems.
Yeah, but so I don't think we have a secret. Well, we don't have a secret ballot because they're printing it out in public view. So to me, your ballot should be secret, but the count should be public, and now it's the opposite. Now your ballot is public and the count is secret. We're going to get it changed, but we're working at a lot of different directions, but I thought we were going to have it to where we could run our primary the way we wanted to, but the commissioners turned on me. But they have an incentive not to have an accurate count, but I haven't figured out what it is yet. But we're working on it. But that probably doesn't. Does the sheriff have any jurisdiction over elections?
I don't believe so.
I think
As being an elected official, that kind of puts it in a tenuous area. You wouldn't want the sheriff who is elected to have control over elections.
That's right. Yeah, the Constitution says the county commissioners are tasked with the job of choosing the election system in their county. So they can easily scrap these machines, but they won't. So that tells me a lot. But the voters, and I've done, we went door to door. I've done polling, and we come up with the same numbers. Roughly 82% of the citizens want a different system, and a lot of people are not voting because a lot of people don't trust technology. A lot of the older people, they won't vote on the machines. They've never had internet. They've never had a computer, and they're not going to deal with it. They're not going to go there, and they're afraid they wouldn't know how to use them if they did show up. I have a lot of people tell us that. Well, to me, if you have one person in your county like that, you shouldn't use them. But I don't understand why the commissioners in both counties would want to continue with a system. But they'll say, well, we talk to the people that vote and they love them. I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of like going into a seafood restaurant and asking them if they like fish. What about the 80% of the people that aren't here?
Excuse me.
You know, that's my concern. I want everybody to vote. I want everybody's opinion.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
So, but that's a little different subject. But we appreciate you coming, and we're glad you have the courage to stand up and run for public office, and got elected once, and you'll probably have a pretty good chance again. So we look forward to the campaign trail and seeing how you do.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. You know, as being sheriff, you have to, first and foremost, you're a steward of the law. And so just because I have an opinion on something, if the legislature has come and put that law into effect, then that law I shall enforce. The good thing about law enforcement is, though, that you have discretion depending on the circumstances. And so that helps. And it's, You know, whenever we were first talking about the constitutionality, federal officers coming in here, is it a violation of the Constitution, or is a statute that someone has put in place? Those are the lines we would have to walk. But if it is a blatant constitutional violation, then you've got to intervene.
Yeah, I think the problem that we have now, what really seems to be happening, is you have the bureaucracy and these agencies issuing edicts, but they weren't passed by Congress, or they weren't passed by the legislature.
Congress abdicated their duty. They allowed the executive branch to have regulatory power, and by doing that, they have abdicated their authority over that. And
so we need to hold the congressmen accountable and make them do their job. Yeah, but I mean, it's the all these agencies out there, federal and state, that are just passing rules and forcing them on people that don't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. It's been my experience though here that if the federal agents that end up here, the ones that are on in our offices here, believe as you and I do. They are good, patriotic American citizens. I don't think we'll have that issue here. And if it comes, I think that they will fall on our side. I know many of them, and they, if you look at it, it's more in the upper levels of those agencies. It's not the people that are out doing the line work. I know a lot of those federal agents, and they're good people.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking necessarily about the federal agents per se, but I'm talking, well, you got the EPA and the SEC and all these federal agencies that are coming down on all these, just doing really weird stuff.
Yeah, the local guys, they're fun. We have great partnerships with them.
But, that's where the states come in. And the states are supposed to exert their rights over the federal government. And some states have good leadership and do it. Well, the border situation. The reason you're having to add onto your jail is because the federal government
is not doing their job.
Not doing their job.
I agree.
Which means the state should do it for them, right? So we should step in and stop the invasion at the border. That's the job of the state of Texas, right?
Absolutely.
When the federal government abdicates, states should step in. It sounds like Abbott's starting to finally get the message on that. But it doesn't seem to have had.
Well, in the border situation, it's just not the fentanyl. We have issues because our troopers aren't here.
Exactly. That's why I get by with speeding.
A lot of people are, and there's a lot more traffic accidents. My guys, that wasn't what we were set up for patrolling the interstates. We're more into serving the public,
right,
rather than policing the interstates. And now that the troopers are gone, we've had a increase in traffic accidents. And so it's a multifaceted problem that the border is causing us. It's not just the fentanyl, it's the human trafficking, and it's wide ranging, the impacts that it's having on this country.
Yeah, so if we fix that problem, a lot of problems disappear.
Yeah, or are lessened.
Lessened.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, why don't we just make a half-mile strip from Brownsville to El Paso, Texas military base?
I don't know if you could get that done.
I just lease the property from all the landowners for $1 and say, let us do our thing. It'd stop it.
There are private owners down there that have built their own border walls.
Really? Yeah,
I'd gone down to McAllen, and had actually gone out on some of the patrol boats, and you can see they were having so many issues. It was agricultural land, and they were having so many problems with all the illegals coming across and going into these fields and destroying the fields that they spent millions of dollars building their own to push them into a different sector. And it's
Well, I think that'd be a problem. It's no different than water. So if you take water coming toward you and you divert it onto somebody else's property, that's a problem.
Yeah. They're just trying to solve the problem for themselves,
Yeah, I understand.
which it shouldn't be that way.
Right. Yeah, we just got to, sometimes you just have to get a little firm and solve the problem.
Absolutely.
And the problem is,
We need new leadership in Washington.
Yes.
We need the White House to change hands.
I think pretty much probably 85% of the people here are on your side on that. All right, Joel, Chris, I appreciate you coming, and good luck out there on the campaign trail, and go to chrisforbis.com.
SheriffForbis.com.
SheriffForbis.com.
Yes, sir.
And learn more about him and show up and vote on March the 5th.
I would be honored and humbled to have your vote.
Appreciate you.
You bet.